Hey there everybody, this is Caitlin here and welcome to today's video, which has kind of been running with a little theme that has been going on for the last couple of weeks, where I've had a lot of ideas concerning what I want to discuss in terms of the overarching plot and the lore and things that are happening in Force of Will. So then I just figured, you know what, see every Wednesday when I'm not maybe doing a deck profile challenge or some kind of community based video on a Wednesday, I would maybe focus on discussing some element of the Force of Will plot or lore that has been kind of tinkering away in my head for a little bit, and I just want to get out to you guys to discuss it, to kickstart a kind of topic of discussion with some of you guys, if any of you are as interested in the lore and the story of Force of Will as I am. Previously in these last couple of weeks, we've been discussing the potential of who the traitor could be in the upcoming set, whether Priscia will ever be able to defeat Valentina, or whether Valentina will actually reign supreme over her. And this week, I wanted to discuss something which kind of got brought up and then kind of quickly fell under the radar for a little while, but it's still kind of bugging me in the back of my mind. And you've probably already realised what I'm going to talk about from the title of this video and from the thumbnail, of course. But the topic in discussion I really wanted to bring up was whether or not Zero's parentage, or her father, is actually plot relevant to basically the finale of Lapis Cluster. Now, some people who may be thinking, who don't maybe read the lore articles or whatever, and their only understanding of the story comes from the actual cards, and they don't go in to read the backstory or whatever, they're just like, what are you talking about? So, to kind of tread back a little bit, and one of the more recent story articles, whatever, from the Force of Will website, concerning the battle between Valentina still possessing Priscia and Zero. This was basically the pre-fight before Faria / Gloria showed up and defeated Valentina and purged her from Priscia's body. Basically, Zero and Valentina were fighting, and during the midst of the fight, Zero is obviously using her light magic or whatever, and Valentina is using the power of illusion that she's getting from the power that she's having from controlling Moonstar, essentially. So she's using that power. They're fighting. Valentina's here to finally collect Alice and whatnot. They're invading the Light Palace and the Light Kingdom and all this thing. So in the midst of the battle, Zero taps into another power that she has, which is kind of hinted at what it's called. Some people are calling it the power of null, the power of black magic, the power of darkness, the power of gravity, things like that. People are calling it different names, whatever. I don't think it specifically had a name, but it was kind of the actual power itself was said to source from a darker source or whatever, like that. It was something to do with I believe it was something to do with this, controlling gravity or something like that. But anyway, it was some kind of darkness magic or whatever. And Valentina made a quip. She made a little quip here saying, something along the lines of, I can't remember the exact quote off the top of my head, but it was you're just daddy's little girl, or blah, 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 or something like that. And, this obviously enraged Zero, and, she escalated the fight. But we never got any more into that, bit. So I was talking about it with a couple of my friends at my locals ever since, do you think this is going to be some kind of great big plot reveal or whatever for, the finale of Lapis Cluster? And one of my friends actually said, you know what, it's probably just a jab at, Zero to belittle her. It may not even imply that Valentina knows who Zero's dad is, if, they are still existing in the world. It may just be a little jab saying she's nothing but, a spoiled brat of a mage or a sage, or essentially that she's not up to par with the other 6 sages, whatever. Not necessarily referencing a specific character as her father, but more in line is that it's a common phrase in the Western audience, whatever, in order to belittle someone, belittle someone of their power or their stature or their presence and everything like that. So it got me thinking whether or not that would be indeed the case, where it was just a backhanded insult. It wasn't meant to actually imply anything very important. Or could Zero's parentage actually be important for the finale of Lapis Cluster? Now, it might actually tie in, obviously, to the discussion that we've had before in terms of who the traitor is going to be in terms of the heroes. A lot of people were saying it is probably Zero because she's wanting revenge for Feasting's death. She's going to, she's got the history of being evil and good and blah, blah, blah. And, she's got both the light and the darkness attributes associated with her. So it is more than likely that, she could tap into this darkness as well as the light. So where would that darkness originate from? Where did it come from? Now, a lot of people were making the argument that it could either be 1, Al-Hamat, it could be 2, Mikage, and she could be the mysterious 4th daughter, but I don't believe that's the case, and I'll get into that in a little second. Or maybe a mysterious 3rd person relating to dark magic or darkness will. In terms of whether I think it's any of those first two candidates, my thought process in that is like gradually starting to slim down or whatever because of, well, first of all, we'll go with Al-Hamat. First of all, Al-Hamat. If Zero was Al-Hamat's daughter, I feel like she would have like inherited more traits from him in particular. We don't have any idea on, well, we know that like Gil Lapis is maybe not Al-Hamat's legitimate son or whatever. We don't know exactly how he in particular was conceived. So until we get clarification on why Gil Lapis is not Gil Hamat's legitimate son, I feel like it's kind of hard to actually suggest that Zero is in fact the legitimate child of Gil Al-Hamat, because in the world of Force of Will, I kind of feel like it follows a little bit of slight anime tropes. So let's give like a canon family example. We've got Grimm, Pandora, and Milliam. They are like the most canon family unity that you've got in the Force of Will, basically because Milliam has a mother and a father. There's no missing parent in this little triangle here of this family. So, it follows quite a anime style trope where like the child will look like mostly like one of the parents, most likely the parent of the same gender. You've seen this a lot in, say, like kind of old style anime, like I'd say like Naruto is a main offender, whatever, where like the kids literally look exactly the same as the parent that they're the same gender as. So Milliam in particular, he has the monochrome hair from Grimm. That is his most defining feature. He gets that from Grimm. He gets yellow eyes from Pandora, pretty much, I believe. But that's really it. So mainly, if we can go along the same trope or whatever, the son or the daughter will mainly gain the same attributes or whatever as the same gender parent, like, because that's quite a common anime trope, and it's not that hard to believe that Force would maybe follow that kind of thing in its art direction in particular. So for Zero in particular to be Al-Hamat's child, we would have to have had some indication as to what the mother would have looked like. And since there doesn't seem to be any hope or any idea of us ever seeing maybe if Gilham ever had a wife or had ever had like some kind of lover or spouse, seems to be declining all that much. I mean, there's no mention at all about whether Lapis had a mother of any kind. It's never implied that, like, you know, Gilhamat ruled, like, Altia with a queen or some kind of empress, because he is, of course, the Dragon Emperor, but he has no one at his side other than his aide, Rachel, and as far as we are aware, they are not romantically inclined. It's just literally a aide working for, like, the ruler of the island / nation of Altia. So, for Zero to be Gil Al-Hamat's daughter, it would make sense that then her mother would have most of the defining traits that Zero has. Say, the red eyes, the kind of bluish purple hair, you know, the affinity for light magic in particular, because Gil Al-Hamat, though he is a light darkness ruler, most of his magic seems to, like, his ancient magic in particular, focuses on darkness, because we've seen the black lightning and everything like that. So I find it strongly hard to suggest that Zero is in any way related to Gil Al-Hamat. She doesn't appear to be Altian, because the Altians appear to have this image where they are capable of transforming into demons / angels. Like, that seems to be the common thread, where, like, we've seen Rachel transform, we've seen Alisaris, who, he was Altian or whatever, he was, you know, working for Gil, he transformed into a demon. We've seen several other, like, Altian, controllers or whatever, be associated with demons, and, like, their familiars and everything like that. So it stands to reason that, you know, if Zero was related in any way to the Altians, or Gil Al-Hamat in particular, she would show more traits, but she doesn't. She is simply a sixth sage. She's got these powers of light and darkness. So I feel like she's not related to him in any way. And then some people were suggesting she's the fourth daughter of the Mikage that we've not met yet. But I believe at some point they did mention the fourth daughter by name, and it obviously wasn't Zero. So I feel like instantaneously, that's dead in the water. That theory is out of there, because I feel like in this last set, we are going to meet the fourth daughter in some way, because she's kind of been, like, indicated to being the strongest of the four daughters, and Lapis has some idea of who she is, because he was discussing with Mikage about her, like, her birth and whatever, and that she is the strongest of the four daughters, and everything like that. So I feel like it's obviously not Zero, because, you know, if she was a vampire, we would have known by now, surely, because, and she would have showed it at least, because, you know, it doesn't seem like vampires have the ability to wield light magic, so that would make no sense at all for her to be Mikage's child, essentially. Like, and also, again, the four daughters, whatever, don't seem to have any reference to a mother figure. They only have their father. So we don't know whether all the daughters were birthed by another vampire lady, like of Mikage's court or something like that, or if they had human mothers and they just, like, died or whatever. Just, you know, the genetics and everything of vampires is just very, very complicated, depending on what source you take your geneticism from. So in the end, I feel like Zero is not related to either Gilhal Hamat or Mikage. I feel like maybe potentially her parentage does have some plot relevance, or maybe just a small plot relevance in terms of like the over-ending climax of the story. Whether or not it will appear in like card form or it will show up in the lore, you know, is you know, it might happen, it might not. I feel like there is something under there, but again, since we are very, like, soon we're going to be leaving this world entirely, we might not get that backstory, because obviously this is the last set in return, like, in terms of the Grim world or whatever. So once we're over here, we're probably not delving back into any of these characters ever again, so we might not find out about their backstory or whatever, unless, for a chance, Zero is the one that survives and goes into the next cluster or whatever, and then we have Zero Cluster. Wouldn't that be amazing? Although I feel like maybe they wouldn't pick Zero because she's been such a long-standing character, and maybe eventually she'll, like, have her vengeance, have her arc, and, you know, she'll be over and done with, and there would be nowhere to explore her character. But I feel like, since I feel like I've kind of, like, crossed out those two main, like, father figure males as potential fathers, I feel like maybe there's maybe as stupid as this, I know this sounds stupid, and I'm going to say it and it sounds stupid, maybe Lilius Petal has something to do with it. He is also a source of darkness, because he's a dark green ruler. He's the nine-tailed fox. He has, obviously, the power, like, the power of the Killing Stone or whatever, which, you know, it's kind of similar in a way where it's just like, oh, he's got all this power in terms of, like, not erasure, essentially, but literally, like, instantaneous death, and, like, the power of, like, bringing back to life the, like, the chimeras and all this stuff. But maybe potentially, but I feel like maybe I'm going a little bit off kilter there with my suggestions here. I'm just trying to think of other kind of older creatures who have been existed in Grimm's world long enough and also wield darkness, potentially as father figures. But at the end of the day, I feel like maybe if it was plot relevant, maybe they would have made a bit more of a bigger deal out of it. But I feel it might not be potentially, you know, something that's going to be, you know, what's the word? I'm trying to find the word. Something that's not going to be too hinging on the story. Like, the fate of the world isn't going to hinge on who Zero's father is. You know, we do the DNA test, we get them on Jeremy Kyle show, we find out, yay, you're not the father of the Sixth Sage of Light who's currently on a vengeful death spree against all Alcians or whatever. But let me know in the comments down below, guys, what do you think about that one part of the story? Do you think that Zero's parentage is actually important to the story? Do you think it doesn't matter because she's just going to go on a rampage and kill all the Ultians that she sees? Is she, in fact, the traitor that Force of Will are hinting at? Is she going to side with Lapis? Who is she fighting? Because we saw the promo artwork of her and her epic-looking sword looking all mighty in the cathedral-like place. Is she going to get her revenge? Is she going to be the one who makes it into the next cluster? And we're going to have it Zero Cluster. Let me know in the comments down below, guys, what you think of that. And until next time, guys, I will see you all later.